comments on this. Meantime, the DSA taking hold in the primary for Wisconsin governor. Democratic socialist Francesca Hong expanding her double-digit lead, now 22 points ahead of the candidate in second place, Mandela Barnes, who, by the way, just dropped out moments ago. More on that coming up. Notably, the new polling from Marquette Law School shows 34% of Democrat voters have not yet decided who they are casting a ballot for in the August 11th primary. Let's bring in Elizabeth Pipko, former Republican National Committee's national spokesperson, and Mark Penn, political strategist and former Clinton pollster, now chairman and CEO of Stagwell. Thank you both for coming on. Elizabeth Pipko, to you first. I want to play some of these sound bites. We're going to get to the big picture stuff in a minute, but I want to play some of this sound. This is Francesca Hong, the leader, and now apparently her numbers are going to go up with Mandela Barnes dropping out of the race. She's trying to walk back a lot of earlier comments. Listen to this.
I do not support the full platform of the national DSA, and I am not endorsed by DSA National.
You have also called to defund and abolish police before, while saying your ideal world is one without prisons. Would you sign a bill or budget that cuts funding for police departments?
No.
No. Why not?
The governor cannot defund police, and I'm not here to govern by slogan.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of this, Elizabeth Pipko, right? You try to go to the far left, and then you try to moderate as the campaign goes on and the numbers go up.
Well, that's what they try to do. But unfortunately, Trace, you and I both know the American people are onto their game and are much, much smarter than to, fall for something like this. I was actually watching an interview with this candidate yesterday that was put out where she was introduced as the socialist running in the race. She did not fight that label. She very proudly admitted she was the socialist candidate. She is running proudly as someone who has given money before and has been a member of DSA, this group that wants to abolish police and prisons and borders and the Senate and the presidency. The list goes on and on and on. It's a major, major problem, but the American people know exactly what they're facing here. This is not someone who's going to govern as a moderate. It's someone who would turn a very purple state into an incredibly blue, dangerous living situation.
She sure, Mark Penn, doesn't have a moderate past. Put these up on the screen. These are her tweets now in the past. June 4th, 2020, defund police, defund police, defund police, defund police. July 11th, abolish ICE. It goes on, abolish the Senate. Police exist to uphold white supremacy. Defund, then abolish. Reform can't be an option. And now you're like, no, we don't really want to go that way. It's already that way, Mark. I mean, I don't know anybody who's going to say, oh, no, she's had a change of heart. She ran on this. They were proud of this. The whole DSA movement is proud of this.
Well, so that's the question. What's going to happen with Democratic primary voters here? And are the Democrats going to have candidates who presumably will have a very, very hard time getting elected in purple states? I mean, I think the idea, well, it's one thing that happens in New York, for example, in low turnout primaries where, in effect, the independents and Republicans have no vote in New York because functionally there's so many Democrats that it's just whoever wins the primary. But in these states, that's not the case. And so if Democratic primary voters don't wake up, they're going to have presumably some serious setbacks, especially if people begin to learn what socialism really is, as opposed to this kind of catchword that's thrown around as though somehow it's a good rather than something that really would be quite destructive.
Yeah, I think Mark makes a good point, Elizabeth. And here's the thing is you have Mark Kelly, right, the senator from Arizona. He's coming out and he's going after the whole DSA movement. I don't see Mark Kelly as being a moderate. I mean, Mark Kelly seems like he's pretty far to the left to me, a lot of the stances he's made, and yet he said the following. Watch.
There are folks out there that say things that just don't make sense to the American people.
Like abolish, the police or get rid of jails and prisons.
Yeah, get rid of the border. Don't, defund the Pentagon. That means get rid of the Pentagon, get rid of the Department of Defense. Those things don't make sense. When people hear that, some of them, I think, associate it with Democrats. That's not the Democratic Party I'm in. Those aren't the policies I support.
Yeah, I mean, even there, you're like, this stuff is kind of crazy, and yet it is now a part of our party.
It certainly is, Trace. And look, I remember then candidate Donald Trump on the campaign trail in 2016 warning about this. He wasn't just talking about Bernie Sanders. He told everybody this is not a Bernie Sanders problem. It's a Democrat Party problem. That was over 10 years ago. And of course, Hillary Clinton, then President Barack Obama, chair of the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, all attacked him and said that is not the case. And look where we find ourselves 10 years later with this leading candidate who's fine appearing with Hassan Piker on his show as recently as last month, who has a framed photo of the 9/11 attacks on his desk. This should have never, ever happened, but they have themselves to blame.
Yeah. Final thoughts on this, Mark Penn?
Well, look, I don't think that really the party is going to wind up successful in the left here. And frankly, it is going to take some beatings here of far left candidates to shake up the party to get back to the center. That's how we got back to the center in the 90s. Democrats were tired of losing all the time. And now it seems like they want to get back to losing, at least in purple states. I'm not saying that they're going to lose, but I take a look at how Mondami's doing in New York, and I think he's wearing pretty thin when people start to understand what socialist programs really mean. And then when they put a tax on 30,000 people and then say, oh, I made a mistake. Here's a list of 900,000 people. And these are the people who may be subject to the tax. They begin to learn that this socialism is a lot worse than anything they imagined.
Yeah, when you start making lists and then try to back down on the lists, it's trouble. Mark Penn, Elizabeth Pipko, thank you both. Well,
be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.